Hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me well. Me as
Yes,
well.
um,
Jorge, hi. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, great. So great. We can start welcoming our participants for today. We have people live on Facebook. Uh, Welcome, guys, and we also on the Zoom webinar. We are happy to meet you. Even if we cannot see you, we see some names here on the screen. And we welcome you to another webinar from Amber site. And whoever doesn't know Amber, we are a full service game development agency. Amber Academy is our educational program that emerged from our community value and wanting to invest in people's development from the industry. My name is Andrea Motok. I am Learning and Development Manager in Amber, and together with me today, we have our GM in our Mexico office. Hello, Jorge. Jorge Suarez.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me, Andrea. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and with the crazies, where the crazies live.
Exactly. So today we have a very interesting topic for you guys. For whoever is also interested in Latin American market, Jorge is here to give you all the insights there on building studios with junior talent, which is essential nowadays, and it's going to be a really interesting topic. Feel free to ask questions and we'll make sure to answer during the webinar, right, Jorge? We want to make it live. So please use the Q&A section of the webinar. Those of you who are joining with us Zoom webinar, you have the link and some of you already joined. Make sure you use the Q&A, ask your questions. I will be your voice in the questions to Jorge, and he will make sure to answer as much as possible. And for those of you who are watching us, don't worry, we can also see your questions there. So feel free to comment to the live and we'll make sure to answer those questions as Jorge goes on with the session. So we have 1 hour at our disposal. I know Jorge has a lot to share with you guys. And Jorge, the stage is yours. I won't tell you more about you. I'll let you introduce yourself because I know you have some history there that you would like to share with us.
Hey, awesome.
So I'll leave you to it and enjoy the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to be sharing my screen in a sec. Give me a moment. And let's do this. All righty. Can everyone see this? A yes might be cool. All right, guys.
Yes,
So
we can see it, and everyone just use thumbs up or something in the Zoom webinar if you want to share. And if you have issues, just write them on the chat, and I'll make sure to solve it.
thank you, guys. All right. So, well, the name of the webinar was how to set up a successful studio with junior talent. I took away the successful because I figured out that success is a very different thing for various people. But I would define success as living in your own terms and in the quality of life that you actually want, doing what you love. So that's success. But I took it away. You have got to determine what success is for you. And the agenda for today is basically, why did we choose this? Because you're going to see like the context of Latin America, and the greatest opportunities always comes along in crisis and places where ecosystems are not like super developed, obviously because of not just because of cost, but also because of cultural stuff and talent that can be tapped in there. And so I was born and raised in Mexico somehow, born in Mexico City and raised in Guadalajara, and have lived in a few places in the world. So the agenda for today is know a bit about Latin America. We're going to start with that. Obviously, before that, who's this crazy and big disclaimer here? Whatever I say is just my opinion. It's not the company's. It's what I have lived. And obviously, if I say something can't be done, it means that I wasn't able to do it. You might be able to do it, but I wasn't able to do it. And it's obviously it comes from my expertise. The point number two is from community to studio. That's one of the differentiators of our studio that I want to talk about, and I think it's also one of the biggest pillars at Amber, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we were such a great match, and I love them like crazy. And then the third point is the mindset game we use, and I think that's super important because I think everyone disregards culture as a strategic thing to use in order to growth, and mostly in underdeveloped markets. And we tend to forget the essential things to get through the hurdles of actually being an entrepreneur in creative industries. So just like Andrea said, the QA is all over the presentation, please. So she's gonna be stopping me if you have some sort of question, and if she appears again in video, I'm gonna be answering those questions. Please try to let this be a conversation and not just a lecture. If you can do that, I would be like amazed and really thankful. All right, first of all, you got to start with your why. Our why at KO is we know we can transcend making art in form of video games and media that people loves. So I found out that this is the main thing, the main attractor, the main pillar, the foundation of whatever you want to do. You got to find like why you want to do, and this why has got to be so strong that it actually drives your passion and drives your time and your money and helps you out to just go ahead against the roadblocks, you know. And then it comes the how, and then it comes the what you do. Yes, what we do is games media, but how we do it, I'm going to just describe it. And but the why was the most important thing. And why should you hear me? Well, here's a bit of my story. Here's our first check in 2004. So I basically had like a small consultant firm and a little participation in a bit of equity in a software firm, and we were bored like hell. So right in the left is Hector Padilla, who's hopefully joining us at Amber 2 pretty soon, and the other guy, it's me in a tie. I don't know why. And well, that's our first check and the first time we ever got money by selling software. But at that time, we got together, Hector Padilla and me, and along with Everardo, who's also at Amber, and Gesiel, who passed away sadly. We started at night after work doing comic books and playing video games together, wondering if we could actually live out of that. And I suddenly just wrote the manifesto of KO, which is basically the literal translation for cara oculta is hidden face. And I was saying, I wish we could live out of what we do when we're just like hidden, right? When we're at night in flow, thinking about what we're passionate and creating. So thinking about that made me wonder, and Hector and everyone else, what if because we don't know how to do games, we don't know how to sell art, we don't know how to do comic books. So what should we do? And we just founded this community. And the name of the community obviously was Cara Oculta. And it started growing like crazy. Eventually, Facebook came by and it helped us out wonders. And now it's a 6,400 like game developers from all over Latin America and some from the States and Europe. The ones that actually were the foundation of what we do today, and what made us realize that that was the most important thing to do if we wanted to eventually learn by doing. So when we started doing our stuff, we started sharing it with the community and finding out like-minded people who wanted this too, but didn't find a studio. Back in the day in 2004, there were no studios at all, at least in Guadalajara. So you can imagine how hard it must have been. And well, nowadays, after like quite a few years, we have a bit of project under our sleeve. We started working doing like super small, hyper casual, shitty games for Telcel, Usacell, and Movistar, which are like telephone carriers. We started developing our first. We developed like 25 families of 6 characters each, and we developed a hyper casual game and put it out there in the market. Mostly those were like reskinned games. Oh, you're in video. You were gonna ask something?
Yes, you got me. I think it's awesome that you said the community idea, because it's also like part of who we are in Amber as well. And I'm
Exactly.
sure that others are also curious. he said it's hard to build that community, and I wanted not to lose the idea. And I was curious to know for her, like, if you were to say to others some steps that you think from your experience are useful in building a strong community, to really have a pillar in the community of game developers out there, what should be the things that someone should do to build that strong community?
That's so interesting. Well, first of all, one of the main things that happened is that we realized by getting together with like-minded people who were the leaders, the ones, taking hyper ownership of the whole game development process and really wanting to do this. It's not just something that you talk about, it's something that you do. And the doers started to be leaders, obviously, around the community because they were achieving at least something that would be published, or they were earning money. And we started getting together to talk about how we did it. And we were learning from each other. So those leaders became the ambassadors of KO, which was a great format to help us out to just, since we didn't have any money at all, just trying to do some sort of social compensation with a title, although it's like giving a red balloon to someone. It's just like something totally cosmetic. But that person gained authority, and we started doing and having that around Mexico in different cities. And that helped us out to grow dramatically. And it helped us out also to realize who were the ones that were actually having a different point of view regarding game development. Because as you may know, there are some that really want this to be a business. There are some others that really think on just the artistic side of it. And some others are just curious because they were gamers when they were young or whatever, and they think that they can do a better thing than what they played. And I just minimized the whole categories, but still, we just realized those were like the main three where we could separate our community. One of the things that we did wrong, which is we did wrong the fact that we only did it for game developers, and we made it a closed community. So you would either be invited or you would have to ask to come in. I would say that's not that wrong, because there's like the Velvet Rope kind of effect, I had to need someone to come in, so it was like a bit more selective than the Unity user group, which is huge and everyone's invited, but not everyone cares, right? I'm not saying that everyone cares in our community either way. I mean, but it gave that sense of being something small, manageable, and a pretty tight-knit kind of thing, And that helps us out a lot. And I can keep on saying, and I will always say, that thanks to that, we had our first elements in the clan. I call the clan like the group of
Sounds
people
like a solid base there. Solid
yeah,
foundation.
and back in the day, I was making like literally games in my trousers. And after starting to earn $15,000 per month, I went like, oh my God, this is a business. Help, I need more people. And whom am I going to contact? Guess what? You already have them all together. So that was amazing, and it really changed our life. Definitely, it did change mine. But one of the things that we did wrong is the fact that we only focus on game development instead of the gamers, the clients, the users that were actually playing our stuff. But I'll cover that later on, because we did another community. So now we have two communities, and this one is super small compared to the other one and growing like crazy, the gamers and streamers community. So yeah. Should I go on? Did I answer your question? I did, right?
Yes, thank
Cool.
you, thank you. And
Oh,
it's
you're
really
welcome.
important to also learn the lessons from failures as well.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
going. Thanks for answering, Jorge.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, everyone talks about successes all the time, and I go like, that's boring, right? I mean, it's just like a perfect marketing. That doesn't work. The essence of learning is failing. And we're not trained to fail. And obviously, if you keep on failing, you're going to get fired. So there's a quite interesting balance there. So we made an IP after just like doing 25 IPs. This was the one that standed out. And now we have like games, wallpapers, and themes and all in Samsung, Huawei, and other platforms, distribution platforms. We developed Headlings Arena, which is basically a fast-paced battle arena in which 8 guys. It's a 4 versus 4 kind of thing. Just think it's like Splatoon meets Laser League. So we did that. It's a real-time kind of game. I think it's a prototype. It's sort of a vertical slice, maybe. No, it's mostly a prototype. And you can see the video and how it works on headlingsarena.caraculta.com if you want to see it. It was a lot of fun, and we did it along with Larva back in the day. We also have a launcher made with Zola because we wanted to be like really in contact with our players and really in contact with other game developers. And we used that in order to distribute some prototypes and games. We worked for other clients in the States, in San Francisco, and other parts of the world. Cinepolis, which is like the 3rd or 4th largest movie theater company in the world, is Mexican actually, and we have a huge story with them. So we have done a lot of stuff with them and actually received investment from them. Work with other companies to gamify their platforms, Bosch, etc., etc., etc. And after that, what started happening because of the community, because they started saying, oh, you got to go with these guys. They might not be the best at doing games and they don't have the best games, but they're there, you know, they're helping out and they have an actual business. So Cinepolis asked us to be part of their accelerator, and we started working with them. Now we're suppliers for some of their providers. And then Forbes came by in 2015, and we went out like in the 30 promises of the year. And then I went through Shark Tank Mexico and had like quite a nice experience pitching there to the sharks. And then the media started like taking off. It was amazing just to be like a media frenzy all over the board. And that helped us out also to grow not just the community, but also the presence with potential clients and potential partners. And I think that's super helpful. You know, you got to be out there. You're fighting for attention somehow, and you need that attention in order to drive sales, talent, and whatever else you want for your company or your studio. So we also, thanks to that and thanks to Shark Tank and the media, fund made by Mexicans and other guys in the States reached us out, and we received a bit of funding from them. We went through Google Launchpad, and we also opened in the States. So I lived for a year in the Valley, in Silicon Valley, and it was a great experience. And we were also part of the founders of the Jalisco Creative Industries Association, which is awesome. Please check it out. Like 27 of the most interesting studios in Guadalajara are there. Please check that reel if you want to check out what's being done over here in Guadalajara. You would be amazed that we don't have a good marketing, but some of the best productions that you see in many networks are being done over here, or at least part of it, and many services are being given to great IPs. So ajic.org.mx, please visit it. It would be super interesting. And back in the day, this is one of the photographs of that day. So take a look at those faces for God's sake. So if you're wondering, why am I speaking about junior talent? Take a look at those faces. They rocked, and it's not that far away. That's September 2019, and by that time we were 18 guys in the payroll and 12 interns. Yes, almost the exact same amount of people in the payroll, and you can see the seniority. It's not much, huh? And we achieved all of that. It's not a matter of just like the leadership part. It's a matter of the whole system, and I'm going to talk about it too. Another thing that we did that was quite important in order to make this happen with juniors is the fact that I realized that there wasn't like a nice place to work. It was terrible. I wanted to have like an adult kindergarten where everyone could be creative, because that's what I dreamt of when I started the community. And as you can see, we have we have 4 small rooms and a small apartment on top of the studio. The blue room, the orange room, we have a meeting room, and we have a gaming room. And on top of it, if you can see, like, there are some stairs behind the photograph on the left, and that takes you to the small barracks that we call it. And so we have like 4 beds in that apartment, and we allow people to stay that come from other states in Mexico, underprivileged states, or places where they have no studios at all, to come over. And that was a definite recipe for success, and obviously for bringing junior talent that was super eager to work in the game industry. And it was a game changer. That also brought some attention to the state government, which has this awesome place called Ciudad Creativa Digital, CCD. and they allowed us to open a studio in there, and it was awesome because we could receive more junior people and start training them. So you can see a lovable match right here, right? So we have this community element already embedded in KO. We had this teamwork that somehow, if we were not like an actual real team in between the junior and the guys that were a bit more senior, we wouldn't be able to just finish stuff. Obviously, Kaizen and quality was just like super far away from us because of the junior talent, and obviously because of my experience and my lack of money. And that tends to be like the typical excuse of all the studios around here. It's just like we don't have any money, or we're not allowed. There is no senior talent that can help us out, or there's. And I wasn't just like ready to just let go. I after all my ventures failed, I just realized that my heart is here and my why is in Amber KO. It's much more powerful than I thought. So I just devoted my life to it. So the greatest story of all is obviously this. After so many years, this story is really told by our CEO Mihai Pohontu in this awesome podcast called How Games Make Money. Look for it on YouTube. He's awesome at telling the story. I love it every time he says it. It brings tears to my eyes. And we just merged. He just offered to merge and acquire KO, and that's how KO became part of Amber, and I became the GM of Amber Mexico. And I'm super proud, super honored to being selected for this, because when they went to see the other studios, I was like super afraid because I knew they were doing like better games than us, but somehow I think he should be telling the story. But I guess that because of the values and because of the leadership, because of the systems that we had together, because of the community, and obviously maybe the charisma and match or whatever that we had, this chemistry that we had, it was amazing. And I could see like fireworks all over the place when we were together. It's just like, awesome, we got to be together. And when I realized that we were on the same path, but obviously with different resources, experiences, and obviously taking a look at all that it is an employee-owned agency, and just traveling to Romania and visiting everyone, getting to know everyone, I was ecstatic, and I'm still ecstatic today. All right, so that's a bit of story, and that's a bit of myself. I'm an industrials and systems engineer. I'm an organizational systems engineer, not computational systems. So, yeah, that's my background. So now let's talk a bit about the Latin American market. If there are any questions, I cannot see because I'm in a PowerPoint presentation with double screens. Just interrupt me, Andrea. So it's been 20 minutes. Let's talk about the Latin American market. So for those of you who don't know, there's a question. Are you just showing off your nice
question, and it might be way too soon because I'm sure you have some insights there, but we had people joining and enrolling before the presentation, and they are filling our form with questions, and one of them is related to the market. And I will just ask it now, and you can share with us your answer maybe later in the slides if you have it already, or
Sure.
just now. So it's the question is related to Mexico, how Mexico compares versus other markets in terms of cultural barriers, or maybe stoppers for video game studios, if there are any stoppers associated with this.
Oh, many, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm gonna use my slides here just to answer that. First of all, we're the second smallest market. And that's $5 billion still. I mean, the smallest market is Africa. And obviously, one of the things that we have, the stoppers or the roadblocks that we have got to talk about is, first of all, the disposable income of the context. Second, the type of formal education regarding game development is totally, I was going to say it sucks. It's improving. But it sucks. I mean, compared to all the places, we just don't, the teachers that are teaching over here haven't done games. So you can imagine how the blind are leading the blind, right? And that hurts me a lot. And mostly when we try to just reach out to universities because they ask for our help, it's horrible. The system doesn't work. And it's not learning by doing. It's just like the typical industrial system with grades and all. It's not just like an RPG where you level up. It sucks. So that's the same in the States, but they're learning at least from people who's actually doing more stuff. And it's not just the resource of money, it's also the resource of time. So we have a lot of people that has a lot of time, but since we're not like we're in a developing country, they need to eat. And as you may know, like poverty is like big over here. And they keep on, one of the big stoppers is the fact that there's this subconscious thing in our social fabric that tells you that if you're an artist, you're not going to live well. And that sucks. I mean, we're trying to change that. Why wouldn't we live well as an artist? You know, I mean, because I believe that a coder is an artist. I see code and I see poetry. I believe animation is art. I believe like everything, that's the ultimate art form is a video game. That's why I'm going to devote my life to it. And because I love the freaking business, and it's bigger than cinema and music summed up. So why in the world wouldn't you devote your life to something that you actually admire and love and feel amazed by it on a daily basis? So finding out a formula that could actually bring that happiness and freedom and money and resources and knowledge to our ecosystem was one of my main purposes. When I saw that Amber is like an expert on developing ecosystems, it's just like, oh my God, I can just help out so much. And because at least I know this one and I speak Spanish. And we're going to talk about that also. And we have like 50 million players, you know. It's a $5 billion market. It's maybe not that big. Obviously, Brazil is bigger, but still, we just spend more than Brazil in games. And if you want to just correlate that to other markets, you can see this graph, which is kind of interesting. And the number of jobs in China and the US are ecstatic. I mean, comparing to us, who are like over there, just aside Argentina, it's not that much. By the way, this is a study from the IDB, and it's an Inter-American Development Bank, IDB, I think it's the name. There's a whole book. It's free. Just take a look at it. It's totally worth it. The name of the book is An Industry That It's Not a Game. So just reach out to it. They grabbed like 50 of the studios in Latin America that are representative and just extrapolated all the numbers from them. It's super interesting, but you can see like how are we compared to the rest of the world over there, number of jobs per country. And one of the funny things is that it was a pretty accurate study. I can just certify that because we were just there in the 18 studio kind of, you know, if this was like a normal graph, we would be just in the exact middle in between 10 and 19 guys, plus the interns. And now we're going to be part of the 1% there. We're going to end up being a studio of more than 100 persons by the end of the year, hopefully, and super honored by that. So that's our reality in Latin America. So we don't have like huge studios. We have a lot of indie studios that are super talented. Almost all of us were giving services in order to learn and get some cash flow in order to nurture our IPs and our efforts to create something. So that's that. I hope I answered a bit of a questions about the stoppers. Also, like the main stoppers, the mindset and grabbing your ass and taking some action and looking for money and trying to learn what you are not taught at school. So I'm going to talk about by the end of this presentation, which I think it's the most important thing of it all, just to encompass all the model that we're bringing over to the table. So community has a solid foundation to our studio. So we talked a bit about community, right? So there was like a small slide about that. So now we have a game developers community and a gamers and streamers community, which is growing like crazy. And that has, I think, less than a year. So as you can see, we're actually using the community in order to tap them for not just potential talent that would be coming in, because it's a place where people start posting their work and you want to see who the fuck is working in interesting stuff, and you want to become their friends, and you want brands to come over and use your community, as you can see, to just leverage whatever people you have got there, and you start becoming a leader because you're there doing stuff that's valuable for game developers and gamers. And that communication is super important, at least if you're in survival mode in some sort of indie format, you all know how difficult it is just to pay the rent and, you know, all the services and pay the payroll. So you have got to have a place where you can at least get to have talent, which I'm going to talk about. It's the main thing that we used in order to grow because we didn't get the talent from schools. It's the intern program that we have got over here in Mexico. Compared to other countries in the world, we have the guys that are in the 8th and 9th semester, which are, it's like the finishing semester, it's the finishing year of their major. They are forced to work somewhere in order to acquire practical knowledge. Imagine how cool that is. And we're not allowed to pay them. I mean, we can compensate them somehow, but it's something that's already just given, and it's by law that they can work and have to work in somewhere where they could learn the practical stuff. And that's how we just started doing agreements with all the universities in Mexico that we thought were interesting. Now we have 27 universities across Mexico that with which we have agreements, and we have 15 permanent positions that we try to fill up with the best talent that we get from all types of universities. Not just Guadalajara, which is super important because nowadays the leaders that we have got, or the guys that are growing like crazy, are people from Oaxaca, people from Morelos, people who's in much more need than people from Guadalajara, people who have struggled even more to eat, who value whatever money we can muster in order to give them. And you can't imagine what adversity is like and how that helps in order to just build mentality and warriors that can make this happen. You were going to say something.
Of course. Now
Go.
we have someone from the group here in Zoom that is really curious about something, and it's related to the fact that you mentioned having a junior team. So the question is, what is the best way to manage a junior team that works 100% remotely? I think it's our challenge nowadays all over the world, right? So yeah, what's your view on this?
Yeah, well, sure. First of all, I mean, you always need some leads, right? And what we did is, it's funny that this question came just in the slide. You were really prepared, Andrea.
Well, thank you, Fernando. He was the one asking the question.
Well, the way that you got to work, we were super prepared when this pandemic started out. I mean, it was amazing for us. I mean, we're striving, we're doing pretty well. Everyone's used to it by now, and obviously we have some systems that are really that wouldn't be used or allowed in ecosystems that have a lot of senior people, and I understand why. I mean, when you have junior people, you don't have the discipline, you don't have like they might have the talent, they all have the talent. I'm gonna just correct that. They all have the talent, they all have the passion, but they don't have the knowledge nor the expertise in order to make shit happen, you know? So what you need to give them that expertise in the cheapest way, and to make it fun for them too, and or at least that's the way we did it. It was streamlining our processes and systems. So we had to simplify the complexity of making a game, which can be daunting, totally, obviously. And everyone wants to do the next Zelda with the Eagle Warrior, which is bollocks, right? And so what we did is just we worked on these 4 systems. We worked on automating and streamlining the induction because we had a lot of rotation, obviously. So every 3 to 6 months, we would have someone getting in or going out, and we had to make him productive at least in something that could be profitable in that amount of time. And afterwards, if we found out that he was like super good, we would keep him. Obviously, we had like the economics for to do so. So first of all, we worked on the induction, then the production part, the production systems. We just super worked on and focused our efforts on building an intranet that would concentrate and unify all the communications, externals, internals, along with assets and the rest of the stuff, because we lost millions of pesos of assets and stuff trying to put this together and having people going away and losing our permits of folders and shit like that. Super noobs. But yeah, we did it. And obviously the way of measuring productivity and compensating against that. So about induction, we just did this this technology for a client of ours, and then we just pivoted into the induction system. It's a thing we call Athena, and it had a lot of videos, and we used obviously gamification to have induction. So we used trivias in order to see people along in their mobile phones or on the web, and now even VR. We have it in VR too. They could see videos of people from within the studio just teaching them out like the main lessons or the main pillars or the main processes within the org. And I think that helped us out a lot because it's like just like seeing a webinar and then practicing, finishing and then practicing. That was super powerful. Obviously, regarding production, which is like, I'm not going to talk about this. There's so like so much better people within Amber that can talk about this, but I can say how it did it. So we divided the production in phases. It's just like 3 phases, easy things to remember. And we started charging for all of those phases. So since we were not pitching to just like big publishers all the time, just like how we do it on Amber, we were dealing with brands in Mexico. We were dealing with marketing agencies. We were dealing with people that doesn't know shit about the video game industry. So we had to guide them through it. And the way to do it, and obviously to distinguish which ones were the actual clients that were not just shopping, we just charge for the phase 1. We call it phase 1. So it's an interactive non-functional prototype. And basically it's like the GDD. It's a plans or blueprints for a project. And we just ended up giving them that non-functional prototype. We developed this template, which is like the template of a GDD, where we put together all the proposals. So we started just like gaining profit just by pitching to different brands and clients. And that would help us out to get some cash flow in to maintain our main people and obviously the studio. I think that's super interesting. Phase 2, what's the production part? And it's just, you know, our design, software development, testing, production management, and everything related to that, our Kool-Aid of Scrum. And I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, that's much better explained by other people, not me. And phase 3, it was the maintenance of the product that we had already done with clients that were paying us just like a maintenance fee on a monthly basis. Another thing that was super important is, but I call them the 2 pillars. So there's one pillar, there's one system that with which we united the whole studio and with which we communicated with external clients and centralized the whole effectiveness of our teams. And I talk about effectiveness and efficiency because one is related to time and the other one is related to quality and actually deliveries. So deliveries and quality was measured somehow, since it's not quantitative that much. It was measured and used by Bitrix24, which is an awesome system to unite your company. And it helped us out also with the whole business model, you know? So everything related to the team, to the leadership, to the mission, how we handle cash flow, the marketing and communications are also connected to Bitrix24. All the systems related to almost everything, even telephony is connected to Bitrix24. Our external lawyers, our accountants, they were all connected to Bitrix24. In order for them to get paid, they had to deliver in Bitrix24. And obviously in the end was the product. So maybe that's why we didn't have like the most impressive games in the world, although I obviously wanted to do many of them. We didn't have the knowledge. So I just figured out that if we could just, I mean, this model is for a hot dog stand or for a video game studio. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's Amber, 550 guys, or a hot dog stand with 2 guys. They have this model somehow, somewhere embedded in the way they roll. So I really wanted to streamline this and make them realize how important being united was. And the other one is related to efficiency. So this is the one that wouldn't be used for a lot of senior people because they think that big brother's watching them or something. It's super embedded in our culture. It's the one that actually helps us out, just answering your question, helps us out to manage like remote people without actually having supervisors or having a lot of track record from them in order to realize where the inefficient practices are, or even if someone's burning out. We have been able to find out who's burning out thanks to this tool, because whatever you measure, it's something that you can control and improve. And that's related to Kaizen, right? Somehow. And if you're not measuring the time, oh my God, then you might be just like losing the best resource in your company. You were going to ask something.
Yes, and it's really related, I think, to the productivity idea because, well, in order to be efficient, you need to be skillful, right? And when we talk about junior talents, there's for sure room for adding new skills, upskilling, and helping people to develop in doing a good job and an efficient job in their role.
Exactly.
And we have a question here that is related to skills. Someone is curious to know what are the most critical skills that game developers in Mexico are not having today. So,
Sales.
mm,
We're not selling. there are amazing teams around here. You can't imagine, Andrea, how many talented people we have got in our country and in all Latin America. I'm amazed every time I meet a new artist, an animator, and some of them they just show me their work and I go like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's so differentiated because of our culture. There's nothing in the market like it. It would be super interesting, um, but they cannot sell it. I mean, they cannot put together a system and to sell that value. It's hard. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I mean, I still can't. If it wasn't for Amber, I wouldn't be just like, obviously it's just the matchup of talents that makes this whole thing work, but it's a human system. It's not a computational system. So somebody gets pregnant, somebody gets sick, and you gotta just keep on going and make things happen. Somebody has got the superpower and who's awesome at, public speaking, and there's other guys that even smell, but they're great coders. And, it's just like, I call it, I know it's going to sound like weird, but it's meant to know in a good way. It's like a human zoo, it's all filled out with all types of animals and talents and superpowers and beautiful attributes. But you got to realize that we're all different and you got to make it work, right? You got to put in a show and entertain people because we're entertainers too. And you gotta also help them out to level up. If you're not measuring how they're leveling up, what you're doing in our organization, oh my God, when you sent us the resources to grow, we all went nuts. We never had those resources before, and we still cannot use them, all of them. So having all those resources and possibilities and actually measuring who's leveling up and even taking the time, I mean, just if you have these sort of tools, and you're doing, I don't know, a logging, a model, a 3D model, a character, and you're doing characters for a year. You can measure if you're improving the way you do your characters, not only by looking at them, but by measuring the time that it took you to get to that quality. So if you don't have these tools, you're not allowing, at least, obviously you see like huge leaps in expertise in junior people. But by the time you have like senior people working together, which are awesome, they start like being jaded or laid back and they forget about improving because they're in this expertise that allows them somehow to just think that it is way too hard to see like a great leap. And it is. It's like, I used to swim in a team and just like going down a second took forever, of training. And that's our craft. And but you got to compare against something, and it's not just yesterday. You got to compare it to some sort of measurable attribute, and it's hard.
That sounds cool. And there's a follow-up to this, like if how to create the bridges between the industry, the academy, maybe even the investors.
Right.
That in
Wow.
mind, skills that need to be developed in mind.
I really don't know. If I had like the right formula, I'm pretty sure that our ecosystem would be growing much faster. Thank God. I mean, what's happening right now, I can say that Amber is the first international company that has ever acquired and merged with a Mexican studio. I feel super honored about it. I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But the truth is that it's going to take a while, obviously. A lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of interaction in between all the sectors. It's just, education wants to know what we need, but still, even though we're going to hire 100 people, I mean, there's thousands of jobs and thousands of students that want to go out and do this. I mean, there's not enough studios in Mexico just to host all of the students that are graduating from those careers. And obviously, since we don't have like the sales expertise and we haven't developed the ecosystem further, a lot of our best talent tends to go to Canada and the States or wherever they get like a better job and a better way of living, right? Because they're not being well paid over here. So that's one of the biggest challenges, hurdles, and stoppers or roadblocks that we can see. If you ask me what's the way to get it done, yeah, well, the formula that we're following is the AJIC, the association. So first of all, you gather together all the studios, and then we start to receive invitations, for example, to speak with the governor of Jalisco. That was an amazing experience because he really was interested in actually knowing what we needed. And he was actually executing against what we said was we needed and getting it done. So we're the only, I think we're the only, I don't know, there must be like some other two states and cities trying to have like this Ciudad Creativa Digital concept, but still it's 1,000 million pesos just put in a trust fund in order to develop creative industries. We have a governor who's really devoted to creative industries. I don't know of any other governor, nor the federal government over here in Mexico, really caring a lot about us in either way. And I think that's a foresight. I mean, they shouldn't be doing that. They should be really, really supporting it. And also, universities are screwed, right? And it's not just a pandemic. It's the fact that they're just like, in order for them to be legal, they have to comply with the government who's super behind the game of how to do better education. So if you're catering to that, I'm pretty sure you're screwed. But you have a university business and you're making people spend a lot of money for them to get knowledge that it's not practical at all, in my point of view. And so we come to the mindset game that we use. And I really think that this has got to be tailored to everyone's, and specifically to the whole spirit, the whole ethos of how your studio and how your games get created, and the why that you have developed for your teams. So the mindset game that I use, or the ones that we have got, is if you ever have seen like the movie 300, there's this scene where they ask, "What's your profession?" And they start shouting like, "Oh, oh, oh!" It really gave me the chills when I saw that movie. It was one of the favorite movies my favorite movies in the world. And I went like, I gotta be like Leonidas, so I know we're all gonna die in the end. Because the statistics are against us. So you got to be crazy to just do a freaking studio and just live out of it 100%. But still, craziness is my thing. So the sense of purpose and the sense of honorability and thinking that this is a glorious battle, it just gave sense to my life. And I think it gave sense to a lot of people's lives. And somehow they got inspired by it. And, we started just fostering this hustling culture, and we started working more hours, but we didn't realize that we were working more hours because we were super in flow and passionate about it. And we started like really congratulating discipline, and which is one of the ways that you can actually get better. We started like finding out that dying and failing is honorable, and we started respecting the people that had come over to the studio and left some sort of game or knowledge with us. And if we could trap it in some sort of video or whatever, it was like gold for us, and we share it. You're gonna see like the other mindset game we play a lot over here at Amber KO, and that made the KO culture. And I do believe that culture is one of the strategic things that has got to be developed somehow with a very specific, whatchamacallit, in a very specific way and with a lot of heart. And yeah. And then we found out also that we're as strong as the weakest link in the system and in our organization. So I started to try to just find out people who was much better than me. That was super easy, and thank God. I mean, they're here with us, and I found out that I could learn more about young people, and that they learned faster. They were like less expensive than super experienced people, and they could do good enough stuff to keep on selling. And And now we're growing, and now we're doing better projects, and now we're being guided by more interesting people and having a better way of life thanks to this. And the other one, it's the thing that I call authenticity marketing. That's a hard one because there's a delicate balancing act in between having your brand recognized as something that's valuable and something that that you want to put a stamp on. And the other one that I really struggle with is the fact that if you don't show you're authentic and you don't show your journey, you don't document and share with the rest of the community and the people, since we're in this attention battle, you're not recognized at all. And whenever I see a launch, because I mean, there's like 1,000 mobile games being uploaded every day, just dropped in there in the dark, you know? There's no community. Nobody cares about your journey. You think that it's good enough or not, and then you need big dollars in order to compete, because obviously this is although it's not a zero-sum game. I mean, the indie guys are like really it's a super tough battle against the real huge systems that have like all the attention in the world and the big bucks for user acquisition, you know? So if you're going to go against Xerxes and the Persians, and there are 10,000 guys with magic and huge elephants and stuff, you'd better be prepared to get hit or have your head chopped off and deal with it. I mean, that's part of the mindset. And you have got to tell that story. You have got to be authentic about it. And I found out that documenting over creating gave us this edge against the other guys that were doing better games than us. And it gave us this attractiveness to the market, and it gave us exposure. And I'm here thanks to Justin Berenbaum, who's a friend of ours, and recommended me to Mihai. And then Mihai came over and he reached out, then Scott came in, and everything started happening because of that exposure. If you're not exposing to the market in a daily basis, in a continuous basis, telling your freaking story, or you're just waiting to have the perfect marketing piece, I think you're losing the real life attention of humans. Not just like the gamers that want the perfect stuff. It's just they're humans too. They want to know more stories. And the interaction with the community gave us that. So we started realizing that if we kept on putting like content out there, we have a daily stream. We call it Una Lucha Más. There's one more fight is the name of the show. It's a daily show. Sometimes it's like super boring. Sometimes it's just like awesome. There's people from the community and from our fans coming in and asking shit. And there's some of them that want to come in and applying for the jobs that we have got now. And since they have been fans, when they come in, you can't imagine how happy they are. And I keep on wondering, in developed ecosystems, they're not happy anymore. And some of them are like super mercenaries. And I go like, we're not jaded. We're driven people, because the adversity that we live in has given us that advantage. Sounds weird, right? It's amazing to have that advantage because we're willing to work more in order to get there. And we're not afraid of it. And that rocks. And yeah, so that's a battle for attention. And also I found out that perfection does not equal sales. So there have been like games where we have put like, I don't know, whatever, $75,000. And there are games that we did in 2 weeks. And the one that we did in 2 weeks gave us more money than the $75,000 game. That's related to money, not to experience or to just, appearance against the eyes of potential publishers and stuff, which is okay. We gotta fight that fight too. But still, you gotta realize what resources you have and do whatever you can with those resources. Don't be stopped or blocked or just, don't be stupid. Work with whatever you have got and push forward. Life is about, it's not how much you get hit. It's how much you can get hit and keep moving forward. That's how winning it's done. Rocky 6. And well, that's our mantra. And I found out that sales fix almost everything. So you are able to sell a super shitty game to a super shitty brand and get some experience and some cash flow to keep on going forward. And I have seen so many indie super teams and great products, featured games in the app store and all that jazz. They're not here anymore. They're working at Apple. They have disappeared. They are sad and they went back to the typical software industry just for big bucks, but their life sucks. And I keep on talking with them and I go like, what happened there? You did so great products. You did great games. And suddenly they got burned out. They 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 lost faith. And that's because they didn't have a business system. And that's because they didn't have sales to just pay the time and keep on polishing the whole thing, pay the people to keep on learning to get there to the city of light. So that's Amber. That's why I go back to Amber. I'm just amazed on how we can just do this together. Oh my God, I went crazy on this one, right? Enlightening trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. But we have great planners. We have better people over here helping us out just to put out their better products. We have great partners. So, yeah.
Now, Jorge, it's almost close to the end. I just wanted to show that we have some more questions. Probably will not be able to answer like all of them, but I know that some of them are also asked in the questions, comments part of Facebook, so we can come back to you guys with extra comments. Jorge can log in there and maybe answer to you as well. I think there is one that that is really interesting for the Latin American market that you were sharing some insights at the beginning, Jorge. And there is one question that basically refers to how to actually be able to create in Mexico a business environment in order to reach to the point to produce AAA games and actually influence the market overall. So what's your view on that?
Wow, that's a super hard question. Mostly because all of the studios and the only publisher that we have ever had over here that tried to do a AAA game actually just flopped, which is statistically normal. It's capital intensive. I love AAA games. We all love them, obviously. But in order to get there, there are some milestones that need to happen in order for it to be achievable. It's not just money, I met a lot of people that had a lot of money. I mean, all of these guys, that publisher, he's the owner of basically our GameStop. And he's the biggest seller of video games in all Latin America. So he's got like money. So he went like, I'm going to put my publisher. And he did a great work somehow. And he did this Lucha Libre game along with Jorge Morales, our head of production, and other awesome people in Colombia like Abar and Efecto Studios. And there was a lot of super talented people. But they were not able, even though they had like this vertical integration, they had the money. I think we didn't have the expertise in all the other sectors of the model. The communication might have been better or could have been better. They had no community built around, even though they thought they did because it was a Lucha Libre game. Well, they didn't really just hooked up pretty well with that community. So there's a lot of factors that actually chime in when you see this. And trial and errors succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. So since you need more trial and errors in order to enlighten, like on a massive scale, how this can be done, I'm pretty sure that what you need is it's other models that can nurture that. I mean, Amber's it's a perfect example for this. So we work on our own IPs. That's one of the distinguishing facts of our studio, right? So we're like a huge indie studio. We have like the service studios, we have the product studios. All of them are devoted to different types of, I mean, Mihai's vision is amazing and it's super ambitious. I mean, we're part of it, right? And we believe in it. And but it's happening, and money's coming in, clients are coming in, partners are happy, almost all of them, and products are being made. And we now have a community. You know, we're tapping the Latin American market. I'm pretty sure we're going to start doing it for the English speaking market, which is, they have better disposable income than us, right? So there's a lot of things that are happening right now, and I think that you just need to orchestrate and keep on trying and keeping having that system to keep on experimenting forces you to have cash flow coming in, and that changes your valuation, and that changes the whole thing. And it also gives expertise to whomever's actually leading all the studios. And I'm the new kid on the block, obviously, and I just see the type of dynamics and struggles and how we fight, like the good fight. You know, we're learning by discussing and with really interesting, super bright people. So I love it because I love debating. I love to just put out there also my point of view, and also use whatever resources we have over here that are part of Amber now, and it's at their disposal, and maybe they didn't have it, and maybe that's why we're together now. So I'm just looking forward to see how we can do it. Now there's other governments, for example, the governments in the States and the governments in Europe, they all have different policies for just like supporting creative industries. Over here, since we're one of the few that actually care about it, I mean, we have like, you know, some seats that we can put out there. It's not just about the studio and the offices and the trust funds for that. It's just we're getting interconnected with better markets and with better leaders around the other dimensions of the system, you know, with interesting politicians, with interesting universities, with interesting studios that need more work, and maybe we can outsource it to them or acquire them, or who knows, right? Yeah.
Sounds really, really cool, and thank you so much for sharing with us today your insights, your experience with building the studio with junior talents. And I like this idea actually to based on the fact that learning and growth actually happens by being there, learning from one experience to another, being exposed, trying new things, and this is actually what set the basics of our development. So this sounds really, really cool.
Hey, there's one more element, and you really have to be humble about it, because I mean, I gotta express it. It's luck, sheer luck. I was lucky. I mean, whomever says that, yeah, luck is opportunity meets, you know, capacity meets opportunity, whatever, man. I mean, it's serendipity too. It's the freaking universe. Come on. I mean, it's karma. It's all of it. It's just, it's how possible it is that you can get to know a guy 11 years ago who will meet you, your new best friend and partner, who's the CEO of such a great company. I mean, what does that mean? How can that happen? How can you just push that to happen? It's not thought of.
Well,
So
when this happens, you take it. So, and
right.
wonderful things happen after. Now, this was really insightful, and I know there are more people commenting on Facebook, and we didn't have the chance to answer everything, but don't worry, guys. We'll come back to it. And Jorge, I'll entrust you with our comments on Facebook later on when you have some time to see what
Sure.
people are
And if
asking.
you want the presentation or the book where I took like the statistic from, I'll send it to you, or maybe you can just put it out there in some sort of resource
Yes,
of ours.
that sounds really, really cool. Thank you for taking the time to share this with us. Thank you, young community, for being here with us and watching us in this Ambers Academy live webinar with Jorge. And we wish you both a very good evening or day, depending on the time zone. I know there are people all over the world joining today, as well as also as in the previous webinars. Thank you for being here with us. So have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Oh, thank you, everyone.